Hello Guardians, it is Ebontis here, and in this video I want to cover everything that I can tell you right now, at least in Season of the Lost, with regards to leveling up your Guardian in Destiny 2. There's a lot of little nuance to it, there's different activities you can do, there's different, caps depending on how much progression you make. So some of you guys may know this. If you're a veteran player and you're looking for just what the powerful and pinnacle items are, maybe you're checking on old characters, maybe you haven't played in a while and some of this stuff is new to you, or you've never played before, you might need to start from the very beginning. You guys can use the timestamps down below. I'm going to break everything apart as much as I can to help you guys out. If you guys are more veteran players, you might be looking for the powerful cap, pinnacle cap type stuff. If you haven't played in a while, some of this stuff may just be a good refresher. If you're brand new, sit down, get comfortable. We've got quite a bit to discuss. So leveling up in Destiny 2 all the way to max level in Season of the Lost. Here we go. Alright, so the first thing to know before we get to max levels and caps and anything like that is how is all of this gear score calculated? And how do you work on, what matters and where? So the biggest thing everybody's going for is a power level. And your power level is a combination of two things. One, the gear score, which I'll get to in a second. The other one is an artifact bonus, and I'm just going to get that one out of the way right now. You can see it on screen. It says +9 bonus. That's where I'm at right now. You even see down below on the screen, bonus power grows as you gain experience and is applied to all Guardians on your account. It resets with each new season. So two big things there. Your bonus power from your artifact, which is right down here, is account wide. So if you have 3 different characters, they all share the same artifact. They all have the same base power, or power bonus. Which is nice because if you do activities on each character, they're all contributing toward that experience total, which raises your power. So if you come into the artifact, you got two things. You get mods, that's for a separate video. But if you look at the experience, you can see power bonus +9, next power bonus, the experience I need, I'm 808,000 of 935,000. Sounds like a lot, but some bounties are like 3,000, 6,000, 12,000. It goes by. One thing to note about the increase, every time you go up in level of power bonus, the next level is a little bit farther away. So it's not going to be just a linear scale. Every level is not 935,000. The one before this was probably about 850. The next level might be 1,050,000. As you guys can see, each level you go to after the one that you're on is going to take you a little bit longer to get to. So it's really important to note that, like, at first you might be like power bonus 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it starts to slow down a little bit. That's just not in your head. That is a real thing. So it takes a little more experience for each consecutive power bonus level, but it is all experience based. Whether you shoot an enemy in the face, do a bounty in the objectives and complete that, finish a strike, finish a quest, whatever it may be, anything that gives you experience is all dumped into this, and that is how you increase your power bonus level. And then once you finish that level, you'll be starting over, and then the next one will show up, how much you need, and it's always going to be more than the last one. So in theory, there is no cap to this, but depending on how much time you have, there is a reasonable cap unless you just live in this game. Most people tend to get to around +15 pretty normally. That's a decent cap to get to if you play a reasonable amount. If you play a lot, +20, +25. Anybody beyond +20 or 25, more power to them, but there's not a lot of benefit to that, and that is a crap ton of playtime. So overall, artifact bonus is experience-based, in no way relation to gear, and at this point, you can take that little bit of information and just store it away because everything else I'm going to tell you is separate from that. So everything else is related to gear score. Now, there are different caps. I will get to those. But the main thing I want to explain is how gear score is calculated. It's an average. And it's an average with any, decimals or fractions basically eliminated. It is a rounded down average. So if you take all of my gear right now, and 1320, 1320, 1322, 1323, 22, 23, 19, and 24. That average could be 1321.99999, but unless it's 1322, my gear score is 1321 with no change. Now, if I switch this weapon to one slightly higher, you can see it goes up. So my average is probably pretty high. If with this one on, it's probably like 1321 and 7/8 or something like that. And then I bump this over and it goes up. Oh, no, actually, still 1321. Notice it goes from 1320, 1322. But if I go from 1323 then it goes up by 1. So it is a true average, but you have to actually cross the threshold of the next number for that average to matter. So it was always a rounded down average of your 8 pieces of gear. Take all the numbers, divide them by 8, chop off the decimal, that's your number. So that is how you get your gear score. Now, what does that do? Your power score is an aggregate of the power across all your currently equipped gear. Pretty straightforward. A higher power score improves both your damage output, which there's a big caveat I'll get to in a second, and your defense. The defense is fairly straightforward. If I go into any activity, take, this one, for example, we'll discuss all of this in a bit. Shattered Realm, this is something for the season. Recommended power 1290, for example. You guys can see recommended power 1290. I am 1331 power level right now, so I should be fine going into that activity. Now, the game does a thing where it will kind of normalize you. Like, you can only be so much higher than an activity, and at some point, the game kind of caps how high you can be. I think it's like 20 levels. So, like, if it's 1290 recommended, the game's going to probably put you, as you play through the activity, as kind of a max of 1310. That is one of those things about Destiny. Things can always kind of challenge, and things can possibly always kill you. You're never going to get to a point where you even go into an old activity and you can just like step all over everything in like one shot. You're never going to be able to do that in this game. So if you were hoping for that, it's kind of, it's a thing. There's two different, mindsets about it. You can either really over level in some games and go back to an old area and just smash it, or you can have a game that kind of levels with you and always stays somewhat balanced to where you can never just completely destroy everything by looking at it. But that's your defense. So the other piece is weapon damage. And this is where it is kind of true. Take 1331. My weapons here, 1323, 2022. If I go into that 1290 activity, I'm going to be totally fine. But if, say, I pull an old weapon out of my vault, this one, for example, that is much, much lower. My power level, my gear still averaging at 1294. My power level still 1303. But I will tell you, if you try and shoot any enemies in that 1290 activity with this 1100 weapon, you are not going to be doing that much damage, because the power level on each specific weapon actually determines how much damage it's going to do. So I can go into the same activity. This weapon would do a normal amount of damage. This one would be like shooting confetti at the enemies. You're not going to be doing a whole lot with something that's this far apart from what you're going into. So if I take an 1100 weapon at 1290, I'm 190 levels below with this weapon. I'm not going to be doing much. So the level of your weapons that you're using in activities matters. 1323. Now, these are small differences, but if you take, say, this one at 1319, Peace Bond. It's a sidearm, little gun, cool. And I equip one that's, say, 1320. Say I'm going into a 1320 activity. Well, in theory, this weapon would do slightly less damage than this one, even though my power level, no matter how many times I switch the weapon, this one's 1319, this one's 1320. Yeah, this one's 1320, this one's 1390. This thing doesn't change, but the damage output I do with this one will always be slightly less than this one. So pay attention to what weapons you're using when you go into higher level activities, because it will actually make a difference. But other than that, that covers most everything of how gear score is calculated, what your total power level is, and also what the artifact bonus is. Now let's talk about your actual leveling up in this game. When it comes to leveling up in this game, you've got a couple different caps that you'll hit along the way. Everyone, if you create a new character or, a secondary character, each character will start at a floor. Basically, it doesn't matter what gear you have. Everybody right now starts at 1100. Usually, it seems with every expansion, they bump that number up about 200. So I would imagine in February, when the Witch Queen comes out, the floor is going to be 1300. Basically, all that means is that's where everybody starts. From there, you're going to level up. And the way you level up from the floor up until the soft cap, so basically from 1100 up to the soft cap of 1270, which is the current soft cap for this season, which is Season of the Lost, you're going to be leveling up by doing basically anything you want to do. Now, if you look at your director, it's probably not even going to look like mine. All these little yellow icons are not going to be there, and that's by design. When you're under 1270, all your gear is under 1270, you are going to be able to do whatever you want in the game, and you're going to get gear that is going to help you level up. Now, that can be anything from landing on a random destination, go to a landing zone, you find an enemy or a public event or anything, you shoot an enemy, they drop a piece of gear, it's going to be higher than your level. How much? 1 to 3 levels above your current gear score. You're going to be able to go play PvP matches in Crucible. You're going to be able to go run strikes, Vanguard strikes, match made with other people, going through strikes. You can do random bounties. They could give you gear. Whatever it is that you do, the gear that you get is going to be helping improve your level pretty much constantly. It's nice. From 1100 to 1270, you've got a pretty smooth progression. If you do anything, it's going to be 1 to 3 levels above your current level. And as long as you don't delete the highest piece of gear that you have in each slot, so like right now, take this for example, this is one I don't want to delete. I can use other weapons, mess around with other pieces of gear, whatever it may be, but as long as I have my highest piece of gear not deleted, it could be unequipped, it could be in my vault, it could even be on another character. The game will know that it exists, and it will always calculate your drops based on that. So just keep that in mind. But as you level up, if you like something, maybe something that you like, a weapon, don't delete it, but also make sure you don't delete your highest level item, because that is what the game uses to calculate your future drops. But from 1100 to 1270, it's a pretty smooth process. Just don't delete your highest thing in each slot, and then, you'll keep getting higher and higher gear. Then when you get to 1270, you're going to hit, as I said, what's called the soft cap. And at that point, the game will change a bit. Things are going to slow down a little bit, but I'm going to explain how to make it at least as efficient as possible. And your director is also going to change to look a lot like mine. It's going to show all these little yellow icons. Now, what are the little yellow icons? Those are weekly challenges. They're going to have a little description below each character. He used to have one, but I finished his requirements for the week. But take this, for example. Weekly, complete Vanguard bounties, and all of these are going to be on a per character basis. As I said, the artifact is on like an account-wide thing, but each of these are per character. So if I have my Titan that I'm showing you guys now, if I switch over to my Warlock, its set of challenges for each week are separate. Very few things are account-based. The ones that should be account-based mostly are, which is a good thing. But complete Vanguard bounties, I have to do 8 bounties. So I would go into strikes, do whatever it requires for those bounties. Then when I'm done with those 8 bounties, I come back to him, and it's going to give me a piece of gear called Powerful Gear. And that's the only thing from 1270, the soft cap, up until 1320 that will level you up. So only gear that drops as a piece of powerful gear is anything that's going to increase your level past 1270. So this is where things do slow down a bit, because the gear is going to start coming from specific places, and you have a limited number of places to get those increases. So it is beneficial to make your grind as efficient as possible, and that's kind of what I want to explain. You'll notice next to powerful gear, it says tier 1. You also see some that will say tier 2. You'll see some that will say tier 3, like this one. And you'll even see some that say Pinnacle. Now, the thing to note about tier 3 and Pinnacle is that until you hit 1320, until you hit the powerful level cap, those two mean the same thing. So keep that in mind. Tier 3 and Pinnacle all mean the same thing until your gear score is 1320. After that, Pinnacles are the only things that matter, but I'll explain that after I cover this part. So for powerful gear, it is beneficial for you to do the lowest tier first, and then work your way up through the different activities. Now, you might ask why that is. Well, take this first. Take, this, for example. You just hit the soft cap at 1270. Okay, so I've got my challenge here. I do I do this powerful tier 1 reward. I get my piece of gear. It's going to drop, if I'm 1270, it's going to drop as 1273. Cool. Then I come up here and I do this one. Now I've got, a piece of powerful gear. I do my 8 bounties. I got another one to drop. All right, so that's another one that's 3 above my level. I've got 2 pieces of gear, another 1273. Then I come over here and I go to Gambit and say I do another piece of gear that is tier 1. It's going to be dropping at 1273. Now, if you do the mathematical average, you've got 3 pieces of gear that are 3 levels higher, and you only have 8 slots. So you've now increased your total number of gear score before you divide it down by 9. So when you divide that down, your average has now gone up, which is a good thing. The reason you want to do the tier 1s before the tier 2s and then the tier 3s is because Pinnacle also is tier 3. Remember, those are interchangeable right now. Say I do this first. Pinnacle Gear. It's going to drop as a +5. That's 1275, for example, and that one drops. And then, say I start here, and then I go do my Gambit bounties, and say this one dropped a helmet at 1275. Cool, I'm working on leveling up. I got to raise the average in all the different slots. Now, say I do the powerful gear here, and then it gives me a helmet as well. So now I got a helmet that's 1275, and then I just got one that's 1273. This one literally now serves me no benefit because I already have something in that slot. There's a little bit of art, like random in there. You never know what slot things are going to drop in. But if you do get that duplicate slot, for example, and you already have something that's above it, then this doesn't really help you out. Now, maybe it drops in another slot where it does help you, but it is always beneficial to do tier 1 first to make sure, for one, you get the lowest stuff out of the way, so you might actually raise your average anyway. Because say I did the 3 that I mentioned, +3, +6, now I'm like +9 in my total, so when I divide that down, I'm like +1.1, or whatever that math would be. Then when I do this one, say if I have my average is now 1271, and I do this Pinnacle drop, instead of dropping at 1275, now that I've done the tier 1 activities first, it's going to drop at 1276. So not only is doing the lower stuff better to raise your average first, you're also not going to do them out of order and waste a drop as well. So that is why it's important to do tier 1 activities first, then to do tier 2. When you see those pop up, they're few and far between. This one is labeled wrong, so I'll come back to that one. But say anything that's labeled as tier 2, then if you know stuff that's tier 3 or Pinnacle that you can do, which as a solo player you might be able to do as much, or if you got a group of friends, they might be able to drag you through. But powerful gear tier 3 or Pinnacles, you always want to save those for last while you are leveling up to that powerful cap. The final cap is 1330, and that is the hard or Pinnacle cap, and that is the slowest grind of the 3 by far. So once you hit 1320, now the only way to level up anymore is going to be anything that says Pinnacle Gear. If it says powerful, you are no longer going to be getting a level boost on your piece of gear. I could do this all day, go through, because I'm over 1320. If I do these 3 battlegrounds, the gear that drops is not going to increase my level at all. It's just going to drop at my level and stay there. So I could do this forever and I would stay the same level. So once you hit 1320, you need to find anything that is listed as Pinnacle Gear, and that is actually going to start dropping it's going to start increasing your level at a smaller increment, but you will get an increase. So if I do this, for example, and I'll explain the difference, this one will drop at 1320 or 1330. Sorry. If you're 1320 and you get a piece of Pinnacle Gear like this specific one that I'm showing you, your gear will drop at 1321. And remember, you have 8 pieces of gear. So you need to raise the average by 1 before your +1 now drops at 1322. So the Pinnacle grind is much longer and slower, but it is also when you head in towards more of the end game activities. So that's why it is slower. It's meant to be more of kind of a season-long pursuit. And that's also where the artifact can make a difference. Maybe you can't do as many of the high-level activities, but if you can do, easier activities that just give you experience, you can boost up your artifact bonus to make a difference from maybe not having the highest of gear score. If my artifact bonus right now was +15, but my weapons were still only 1320, my average would still be 6 levels higher and I'd be sitting at 1336. So again, you have the debate of when it comes to Pinnacles, whether you try and do all of the specific Pinnacles, some are easier than others, or if you just enjoy playing the game, run some strikes, play some PvP, and you'll still be getting experience. So it's not for nothing that you do other stuff, but the grind and the level increases are definitely going to slow down when you hit the Pinnacle cap. So again, to review, everybody starts at 1100. No matter what activity you do, between 1100 and 1270, you're going to be getting pieces of gear that drop between 1 to 3 levels above your current highest gear score. As long as you don't delete the highest drop that you have in each slot, you're going to keep leveling up as you keep doing different things and getting drops. From 1270 to 1320, you're going to be looking for anything that says powerful gear. And remember, Pinnacle is the same as a tier 3 powerful. Once you hit 1320 gear score, things will slow down, and the only things that are going to be dropping gear that is above your level is Pinnacle items. And then once you hit 1330, that is the absolute max level for gear score. Artifact can go as high as you have time, but gear maxes out at 1330. But to go from 1320 to 1330 is going to be slower for sure. So what I want to do now is go through a list of everything in the game, currently at least, and again, this changes every expansion or every new season, but everything in the game that shows as a powerful reward that you would use to go from 1270 to 1320. And then I want to cover the Pinnacle Gear rewards, the things that you'll use to go from 1320 to 1330. Now, the difference that I want to say right now is I'll show you things that say tier 3, but if it says Pinnacle, I'm basically going to jump to the next section because while Pinnacles, as you're under the powerful cap, will give you that +5 bonus, I'm just going to cover all the Pinnacles at the same time a little farther down. So first, let's talk about your powerful pieces of gear. So a lot of these are going to come from bounties. There's a big chunk of them that do. You have Zavala for the Vanguard bounties, the 8 Crucible bounties, the 8 Gambit bounties. You have 8 bounties on Europa with Varix. If you have Beyond Light, I'm not sure if he's required for that. You have the new Wayfinder's Compass for Season of the Lost, and you do 8 bounties for each of those to get a piece of powerful gear. These are all tier 1. Also on Europa, you have to defeat 100 enemies with stasis damage off of Europa. So if you use stasis damage on another planet, you will just need to kill 100 enemies. That is also tier 1. You also have Nightfalls. You need to do 3 Nightfalls at the lowest difficulty, or if you choose to do them at the higher difficulty, you can knock this out quicker. So if you do 2 at Hero, that will count. You'll be done in 2. If you manage to do 1 at Legend, there is no matchmaking, so either you solo it or you have a group. But if you manage 1 at Legend, you will be getting this done, this piece done in 1 Nightfall. Also in the world of Crucible, you have the survival playlist, whether it is with a group or freelance where everybody is solo. If you win 7 rounds, not 7 matches, but 7 rounds within those matches, you will also earn powerful gear that is tier 1. Now, you also have a couple activities that are considered, quote, legacy. Legacy basically means activities from previous seasons that will give you powerful gear, but I'm pretty sure it is just tier 1. So you have the Battlegrounds, which is from Season of the Chosen. You got to do 3 of those. You've got the hunts with the Wrathborn hunts. So you need to do 5 hunts. That's going to give you a piece of tier 1 gear. And then also when you're in the Helm, you've got the override missions, and you need to do 3 of those. And that's also going to be considered tier 1. So any of the previous seasonal activities, those basically seems like you just need to do whatever it shows. 3 Battlegrounds, 3 override missions, 5 hunts, and you'll be getting that piece of legacy powerful gear. It's going to drop at tier 1. Now, there are not many things that will show as tier 2. One of them is showing incorrectly, by the way. Clan rewards. It is going to be in your benefit to join a clan, whether you play with them or not. For one, you can find some cool clans, so take a bit and try and look for a decent one. Try and chat with some of those people, or if you find some groups online, see if they have a clan. But as long as you're in a clan, doesn't matter which one, and you do enough activities that you contribute 5,000 experience to your clan rewards, you can get a piece of gear from Hawthorne. Now, you'll notice it says Powerful Gear Tier 2. It's labeled wrong. It's actually considered basically a pinnacle. So it will drop as a Tier 3. So it is always in your benefit to be in a clan, contribute the 5,000 experience each week. You don't want to switch clans a lot because you'll have to wait till weekly reset to have this functionality come back. But you do want to try and find some type of clan to join. So take a bit, look out there, see if you find a decent one at first. And then maybe you find some friends in the game, you start playing with them, join their clan. You can do that later, but try and make sure you're in a clan because this one's actually higher than Tier 2, even though it's labeled that way. One thing we do have this season that is Tier 2 is the Astral Alignment. is the activity in Season of the Lost. And this, when you open chests 1, 2, and 3, the Wayfinder's Troves, when you open those 1, 2, and 3, it's going to, after the third one, it's going to give you a Powerful Gear Tier 1 drop. But you'll notice now, when I open the 6th one, it's going to give me Tier 2. I haven't finished all 6 of these. I think, actually, if you are willing to do 9 of these, you potentially can get a Tier 3 after that. And I'm sure once you do 6, you'll know if I'm full of it or, you know, if I've misremembered. But either way, the seasonal activity has like stages to it. So once you do like the first 3, you'll see this one open up. And then if you do 6, I think there is one for 9, if I remember correctly. The Battlegrounds used to work the same way, so I think this one does too. So that is a Tier 2, but it's kind of like the only one that actually exists. Then you've got Tier 3. So as I said, the only ones that are Tier 3, you're going to have Hawthorne, Clan Rewards. You're going to have the Astral Alignment, should be the 9th chest that you open. And then you've also got, on Europa, the Deepstone Crypt. This is the raid that came out with the annual expansion, Beyond Light. And as you can see, it says if you complete the raid, you're going to get a Tier 3 powerful reward. And I don't know if it's just by completing you get the Tier 3, or if every single drop that you get within the raid, which I think there's like at least 4 in there that are powerful, all of those should be dropping as a +5. So you've got the benefit there. But there's not a lot of stuff that is listed as Tier 3, so it is fairly limited. But if you do have friends that can run you through something like this raid, for example, you're going to get a lot of benefit from that. The final list is all pinnacles. Now, anything I list from this point forward, if you are below 1320, is all going to drop as a +5. But you need to make note, like if you're 1319 and you do a pinnacle activity, it's not going to drop as like 1324. It's probably going to drop as like 1321. It kind of like shortens its usefulness as you get to that cap. So you can't like skirt the system by being 1319 and then do all these pinnacles and then jump up to like 1324. It'll know what you're doing and slow you down. But once you're 1320, anything that I show you here is either going to drop as +1, so drop as 1321, or +2, so drop as 1322. But remember, if you're below 1320, anything that I say right now is just going to be dropping as +5, so keep that in mind. So the first ones are going to be Pinnacle +1s. So these would be the ones that would drop as 1321. These are, for Crucible, any of your main core playlists. You've got Elimination, Rumble, Control, every so often Iron Banner and Freelance Iron Banner are here. And then this one, which currently shows Mayhem, is actually going to be a weekly rotating playlist. So different things are in here, but it's this node. All of those are your core playlists. If you do 3 matches in any of those playlists, you will get a +1 pinnacle. All right, so I did actually have to cut this in here because it's not in the game right now, but it will be active as of September 10th. And it is something that Bungie does want to keep around. It will be turned off for usually the very beginning of seasons, maybe for a couple of weeks, but usually it will kick on shortly after that. And that is Trials of Osiris. So this is a game mode for PvP that is active basically the same time Zur is in town. If you don't know who Zur is, well, you're definitely a new player, and hopefully you got something out of this video. But Trials of Osiris will go active on Friday at Daily Reset, which right now, when I'm recording this on September 5th, that's at 10 a.m. Pacific. When daylight saving time happens in the United States, it'll go back to 9 a.m. And then this mode will turn off after Daily Reset on Tuesday. So basically at Weekly Reset, this will turn off. So basically it's off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it's on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Depending on if you wake up early, you could get it Tuesday morning. But basically, this is a 3v3 elimination mode with some different changes to it, and they've actually changed up a little bit more for this coming season. So previously, you had to buy a passage, and if you could get a certain number of wins before your card was kind of defunct, you could get some gear, same with 5, and then at 7, you could usually get a pinnacle. And then if you went flawless, as in you got 7 wins without a loss, you could go to the lighthouse and get your adept piece of gear, which is kind of a special version of the weapon for the week. The flawless version is still going to be there. If you go 7 wins without losing, you're still going to be able to go to the lighthouse, get the special gear. That's going to be there. The difference is they're changing up the way the Trials passage works, and they're giving more accessibility. One, you've got matchmaking turned on, so you will be able to have that, which is a good thing, I think, for improving the player base. But they also are helping with a lot of cheating issues. They've got third-person peeking being fixed. We've got BattleEye, the anti-cheat installed. You have to own Beyond Light, the annual expansion, to actually play Trials of Osiris. When Witch Queen comes out, same thing will apply. And then they're also going after win trading and account recovery. So they're doing a lot of things to hopefully get after some of the cheating. Will it fix everything? No, but just wanted to say they are doing quite a bit to try and counter as much as they can. So it's a lot of big changes. And they're making this more accessible to everyone. The main differences are the passage now doesn't just lose its value and basically turn off once you have 3 losses. The only difference is you can have a passage that is flawless or it's not flawless. Doesn't matter how many losses you have. You can just keep going after wins and hopefully you'll eventually get there. So you have 2 ways to get pinnacles for trials. One is you have to win 7 matches on a given weekend. You can see the game history right now. It looks like they've got 4 wins. They've got 3 black squares. They've got 3 more wins to go to get that pinnacle reward. The other pinnacle reward you can see actually listed as a weekly challenge right here. Win rounds and Trials of Osiris to earn points, and you'll earn additional point per match win on your ticket. So if they've won 4 match wins, they're also going to have 4 extra points besides all the rounds that they won. And to win a match, you have to win 5 rounds. So at a minimum, they would have 24 points. And then if they played other games where they won some rounds but not all of them, those rounds would also count as points towards their total of 50. So if you play a decent amount over the weekend, theoretically, if you can get 7 matches, that's 1 drop. And then if you can get 50 rounds won, that's another pinnacle. This will be match made, which is honestly a very new change for pretty much all of Destiny. We talked about this on the podcast, but I think it's going to give a chance for more people to jump into this. So I did want to point this out. Sorry for the cut-in, but it's not active while I'm recording this, so this is the best I can do. There'll probably be a video from me about Trials kicking off on Thursday because it's going to come out on Friday. You guys know I do my Xur video then, so hopefully this helps, and back to the video. When it comes to strikes, the regular Vanguard strike playlist, recommended power 1100. You can go in here with basically any gear you want. And it will also, if you complete 3 strikes using the same subclass element as the current active burn. What does that mean? Currently it says Void Singe. So void damage increases from all activities. Whatever the singe is also the burn. Now this is one of those days. These 2 usually rotate. Actually, yeah, and this one usually hangs out for a week. But if it says a singe, that is also the same as the burn. So what I would need to do is go onto my character, choose my Void subclass, and then if I play those strikes as a Void subclass, then once I finish the 3rd one, I'm going to get that piece of Pinnacle Gear, and this is considered a +1 pinnacle. The final one that works in the same fashion is going to be Gambit. And Gambit is going to be same thing, complete 3 matches, you get a +1 pinnacle. Now the other one that is technically a +1 pinnacle, even at 1321 and above, even though I said it's mislabeled, is this one. If you do your 5,000 clan experience and you're 1321, I could go over there and show you guys, but it would mess up the video. This would drop as a +1 pinnacle. So that is why clan rewards are important, because it still even counts as a pinnacle reward. Please find a clan, even if you don't play with them that much. The experience bonus in the drop is going to help you level up. Everything else that is listed as pinnacle is going to drop as a +2. So if you were 1320, it's going to drop as 1322. Those are as follows. The big one is the Raid, Vault of Glass. This one is, it says Pinnacle Gear, but every drop in the Raid will drop as a +2 pinnacle. So that is going to be extremely beneficial if you're trying to level up to find a Raid team and run with them. If you have Beyond Light, the EXO Challenge. This is the easiest one to do. If you have the Beyond Light expansion, and you go to do this challenge, it's usually like a 10-15 minute mission. So I solo it literally once a week. You can do it, and it's actually going to give you a +2 pinnacle. Always do this one. Please don't forget about this one. Pretty easy to do. When it comes to the Nightfalls, you'll notice down here, there's one that says Powerful Gear Tier 1. That's just if you go through, doesn't matter how you do them. But if you complete a Nightfall with above 100,000 score, you get a piece of +2 pinnacle. Now, the way you get higher score is with higher difficulties. Hero, it's usually hard to do because, for one, you're match made, but the points multiplier as you go through the activity, it's just hard to find enough enemies to get enough points. But once you go up to Legend, which is not match made, so you're going to have to find 2 other people to play with, If you can do it on Legend, you're usually going to get 100k unless it just takes you 2 hours to finish it. So Legend is usually where you're looking for to do that 100k Nightfall. Also on Europa, you've got the Empire Hunt, and there's a very specific one that you need to do. Sorry, I did forget one of these. If you complete 2 Empire Hunts as part of a quest, which basically means you have to go to Varix, pick up the specific quest, do the couple steps before it, then go do the Empire Hunt. Doesn't matter the difficulty. Then you can knock that one out. But if you do an Empire Hunt on Master difficulty, which is 1350 and has no matchmaking, if you do it on Master, that is going to give you a Pinnacle piece of gear, also considered a +2. Now, this season, we also have this activity, which is the Shattered Realm. And within this activity, you need to kill 4 champions. It's actually not that hard to do, but basically you just have to run the Shattered Realm twice because the champions are at the 2 first beacons, and then there's usually a boss. So you'll have to run Shattered Realm twice, and that's going to be a +2 Pinnacle. So again, this one's not overly difficult either. Takes a little while if you're solo, but again, it's still very doable as a solo player because it's only 1290 power and you're trying to go for, 1320 plus. So it's not too bad. Patience is usually the virtue here. You've also got a couple of exotic quests. Now, there are going to be steps that it takes to unlock these things and get them on your director screen, but if you do find these quests, and there are plenty of videos out there about them, Harbinger, this is complete the Harbinger activity this week. If you finish the mission, whether you're with Fire Team or not, you're going to get a piece of gear that is Pinnacle. Now, this one I will tell you is harder to solo between the modifiers that can be on here, which you can see, but also just the way some of the ads are set up as a solo player, it can be a bit difficult. I've done it, but I can tell you some weeks are easier than others. Some weeks are a bit of a pain in the butt, but you can do this as a solo player and still get a piece of Pinnacle gear. The other one is on the Tangled Shore. Again, there are quest steps to open this thing up, but this exotic quest called Presage, if you just complete it even on normal difficulty, even though there is a higher difficulty, it is not required. If you just complete the mission on normal difficulty, make sure it finishes up the activity because it sometimes is a little bit delayed at the end. If you finish this mission, you will get a piece of Pinnacle gear on top of you'll be getting a gun from these last 2 things, and you'll get a random roll on that exotic because there's 1 or 2 perk slots that will change. So you'll get the gun and a piece of gear that is considered Pinnacle. The gun might be at your level, but the piece of Pinnacle gear will be above your level. And that basically covers it. So again, you've got your artifact bonus. It's all about experience. That will raise your power score. And then everything else is based around gear. Those 2 together make your total power level. Your weapons damage is based on the level of that weapon. Your armor kind of is just the generic averages that's going into your gear score. And then you've got the different caps. Everybody starts at 1100 up until 1270, which is the soft cap. You can do pretty much anything. Going from 1270 to 1320, it's your powerful rewards. Try and do your tier 1s first, then your tier 2s, then your tier 3s / pinnacles. Then, once you've hit that, powerful cap of 1320 and you're trying to get to 1330, the only things that matter from there are pinnacles. Same thing applies. Try and do the +1 pinnacles, the 3 matches of Crucible, the 3 matches of Gambit, the 3 basic strikes. Then try and go after your +2 pinnacles, and you're still going to get, again, that little extra benefit if you do them in the right order. And all those +2 pinnacles I mentioned will help push you slowly up in that pinnacle level. And your highest gear score that you can possibly have this season is 1330. So I know that is a long-winded explanation, but there's quite a bit to cover, so I wanted to cover this for all levels of people, whether you're new, veteran, haven't played in a year and a half. Hopefully you guys understand how leveling works. I know it's a bit convoluted. Once you start to do it, you'll get a feel for it. It kind of starts to sink in, what order to do things, kind of what you need to do, picking up bounties, experience will slowly start stacking up. And then, if you find some people you enjoy playing with, you find a clan, you've got benefits there. Now those activities that you can't matchmake into, you'll have people to hopefully play with. And again, this is a game that I play a lot solo, and there are certain guides that I will do that will be done as a solo player, because I know not everybody always has someone to play with. But But this is also a game. It is going to be beneficial to try and find some people that you can play with, because it will definitely improve your experience in both the activities that you get to go through. It makes some of the activities that as a solo person are very difficult much more manageable, and you'll be able to do things like the raids, which are some of the best experiences in all of Destiny. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like below. These always take a little while to put together, so I appreciate your guys' time making it to the end. If you have a comment about anything that I may have missed, I tried to cover it all, but I'm not going to claim to have not missed anything. Comment below if you have questions. I try and answer ones I can, but if I've answered a question, try and check some of the comments to see if I've already answered it. If you guys are new to the channel and you enjoy my style of guides, a little more detail, please hit that subscribe button and hit that alert bell. That'll help my videos make it to you that I put out in the future. You guys can also support me directly if you want to with that join button. You can join as a member of the channel. You guys can find me over on Twitter at Ebontis. And then for streaming, I stream right here on YouTube. Hence why if you subscribe and those alert bells, you'll know when I go live. And then also stream over on twitch.tv/Ebontis sometimes as well. Thank you all very much. Have an awesome one, and I'll see you soon.